Hey, cat, get out of here. Oh shit, I'm live. Hi, everybody. How you doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. I'm just getting my cat out of the room here. There we go. Stay out there. All right. Sorry about that. Didn't know that it already started streaming. Anyway, how you doing, Cody? Looks like it's just you and me right now, man. Anyway, wow, so we got a lot to talk about because there is a lot of funky stuff going on in the world. And, yeah, so let me know, if the sound sounds funky or weird, of course, because I'm always having problems with my sound. Okay, gotta put my glasses on. I'm old, I wear glasses now. You know, I'm not ashamed. Anyway, we can just continue on with what we were doing last week. Oh, we got another viewer, Dominic Matherson. Hi, how you doing, Dominic? All right. So I'm going to try something a little different because we got a lot. There's a lot of stuff I want to cover. So yeah. Also, forgive the cars and shit driving by outside, but you know what it is? It gets really hot in here if I don't leave the window open. So, you know, hopefully it won't be too loud out there. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna try something a little different this week. So what I'm gonna do, I got a couple of things sort of lined up that I want to talk about, and oh wow, 11 o'clock. Wow. And what I'm gonna do is devote maybe the first hour to the stuff I got kind of planned, and then the last like 45 minutes to an hour I'll go through the comments and like address some of the comments that you guys are saying. So if you have questions and stuff or things you want me to talk about, we'll devote kind of the second half of the stream to that, because there's been just the last couple of streams, it seems like I'm only getting through like maybe 40% of the material that I prepared. You know what I mean? Which is, you know, it's my fault for, you know, I tend to go off on tangents and stuff like that. But so I want to see if I can kind of squeeze it all in, you know, then that way like I can take like the last hour to 45 minutes and kind of like address some comments and questions and things that you guys like want to talk about, you know, other subjects. We'll kind of leave like the second half as more of an open forum, free form kind of open mic kind of thing. So just an FYI. So if you're posting comments and stuff, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just I want to try to keep it organized. So first thing I want to talk about this week, because we got lots of crazy and weird and bad shit happening in the world, is of course Garret Foster. So Garret Foster was oh shit, there's one more thing I gotta do. Sorry guys, I forgot to put in my thumb drive. I have a thumb drive here that has a bunch of files and stuff on it that I specifically brought out here. Let me just throw that in the computer real quick, because it has videos and other things that I want to show you guys. So I figure, let's see, let me just throw that in there. Come on, damn it, computer. Computer, why you gotta be this way? Okay, there it goes. So I figure if I just show you guys videos and stuff that are like from Twitter and not other YouTube videos, then I'm less likely to get my stream canceled. Right? Versus, I think that's what happened, because the last couple times like I went, YouTube just cut my stream, and I think what it was is I was showing video from like news websites and stuff like that, and I think like the YouTube, like, you know, copyright bots like got a hold of that, and that's why they cut me. So, but you know, somebody's like Twitter video is not copyrighted, so hopefully I'll be able to get away with that. Anyway, okay, so Garret Foster. Yeah, so if you don't know who Garret Foster is, he was a guy that in Texas, right, who was shot to death at a BLM protest. So very, it's pretty big in the news now, and it's pretty tragic story. You know, what it is he was he's a veteran, and what happened was that he was out there for the last couple of months with his fiance, who was a quadruple amputee, and apparently they've been together since they were like 17 and stuff, and he's like 28 years old now. And in Texas, you have a right to open carry. So he had a rifle of some kind, which looks like an AK-47, but it's not an AK-47 because those are illegal. So he's got like a similar sort of long rifle, you know. I mean, really, the people in the news only really know two different rifles. All they know are like, you know, AR-15s and AK-47s, right? But anyway, he had one that kind of looked like that, but it was a rifle, you know. And in Texas, it's completely legal to open carry long guns like this. You know what I mean? So he had a permit and all that stuff. And also, this guy Foster apparently was a libertarian, and he was out there supporting BLM. So there you go, folks. You know, BLM is not just all crazy left-wing, you know, anarchist commies or whatever. You know, you got plenty of guys that take it from different perspectives who also believe that, you know, black people are human beings. And, you know, and also believe that the police are treating these people unfairly and unjustly, and are not giving them the same, you know, they're not treating them the same as they do white people. You know, let's be frank about it. You know what I mean? And so yeah, this guy, you know, was out there holding his gun, his Second Amendment right, as it is the law in Texas. And a car ran a red light, made an illegal turn when the light was red, and sped towards a group of protesters, right? And then slammed on their brakes. So the car didn't actually hit anybody, but it kind of, you know, apparently somebody thought that the car hit someone because someone in the crowd screams, you know, screams that they got hit, right? So Garrett Foster and a bunch of other guys run up to the car to see what's going on, you know, because there have been, over the last couple of months, lots of hit and runs from various people into crowds of protesters. Yeah, it's happened multiple times. There was a story last month about a guy in a fucking big rig that like ran into a crowd, you know. And this is really kind of a meme, you know. This is something that goes back several years, the whole like running people over. In fact, I want to show you guys this. I want to show you guys something here. Let me just turn on my, let's see, left monitor. Here's a meme, right? This is from 2016, this meme right here. This is the kind of shit that, like, you know, right-wingers and the alt-right people and shit joke about on Facebook and on Reddit and stuff like that. So it's like, you know, it's nothing, you know, this is not a new thing. The whole bragging about running protesters over. You know, this isn't something that just suddenly came out of nowhere. And suddenly all the right-wing peoples are starting to do it. You know, this is shit that's like, for a couple of years now they've been doing. So, you know, the people in this crowd in Texas were right to be suspicious that this person was up to no good, and they went up to go confront him, right? Now, what ends up happening is that this guy, Forrester, walks up to the car, and there's a photo of him holding his gun. The guy in the car rolls down the window, shoots him dead, you know, fires like 4 times, right? And then speeds off. And then someone else in the crowd, who was also armed, because this is Texas, right, fires back at him and doesn't hit him. Thankfully, also doesn't hit anyone else in the crowd as well. You know, that's something else you got to remember when you get lots of people with guns in a big area like this. You know, stray shots hitting somebody unintentionally is a concern. You know, this is personally why I think it's a bad idea for people to be carrying guns like this. But I don't know, we can talk about that if you want. I mean, So anyway, what happened is, you know, guy screams away, gets away, and turns himself into the cops. Right. Claims that this dude, God, what the fuck? Claims that this guy Forster, you know, was pointing his gun at him and that he was afraid. And they're using Foster. That's his name. Sorry, not Forster. Claims that this guy Foster was pointing his gun at him. Photos show that that was not the case. So I actually have a photo here of right before the shooting occurred. So this is the left monitor. So you can kind of see this guy right here is Foster. Now here is actually his... See, it looks like, if you were to just look at this, it looks like he's pointing it at the car, right? But that's not true. See, this right here is the stock, you know, that goes up. This is the part that goes up against your shoulder. So that means the gun is pointed down like that. See what I'm saying? So this is actually what's going on here. Like, he's not pointing it at this window, right? He's walking up. It's being held in a threatening manner that he could easily pull it up and shoot if there's a problem. But this is not being pointed at anybody inside of this car right now. Okay. Guy in the car, you know, got a little freaked, shot him dead. Right. And sped off, and now that's the big fucking... Now, something to keep in mind here, you know, witnesses say that this car was speeding up to where Foster's fiance was in her wheelchair. So remember, his fiance is a quadruple amputee who also happens to be black. Right. I mean, that's probably, you know, that's commendable, right? Commendable that this guy would choose to spend his life with somebody with that type of disability. You know, I mean, shit, the guy's a fucking hero as far as I'm concerned, right? And so, according to witnesses, this guy Foster got up in this car because he was putting himself in between the car and his fiance, basically to try to stop this guy from running over his fucking soon-to-be wife. You know, would have been wife, I guess, is more like it now. So, yeah, this dude's a fucking hero. An absolute hero. In any way that you can describe it. This guy was definitely a good person, you know. I mean, even, you know, his political beliefs notwithstanding, because, you know, me personally, I'm not a big fan of libertarians, right? There's no denying this guy Foster was a good person, you know, a great person probably. I mean, shit, you know, I mean, fuck, I mean, I'm just waiting for us to hear the story about how he would, like, donate his life savings to the fucking Save a Kitten Foundation or some shit. I mean, there really seems to be, like, you know, there really seems to be nothing that you could pick up, like, because usually what happens when you get news stories like this, especially things that make conservatives look bad, is that the conservatives tend to, they start delving into people's history, trying to find anything wrong that they can smear them with. You know, the same way that whenever there's, say, a shooting, like, unarmed black man is shot by a cop or a white person, the conservatives and the gun nuts and all that stuff will usually go out and they will try to find any dirt they can on the victim of the crime, you know, like Trayvon Martin. You know, Trayvon Martin was a 15-year-old kid, right? They dug up all these pictures of him, you know, looking in a mirror, making like tough guy pictures of himself. I mean, he was 15 for fuck's sake. I did the same thing when I was 15. You know, same thing with fucking George Floyd, right? George Floyd is obviously the victim. He gets choked to death. They start deving, you know, then you get people like Candace Owens and shit and fucking Tucker Carlson and all these guys going on and saying that he's, you know, exposing his criminal record and all that, you know, in an effort to get us to blame the victim for their own fucking death. That's what it is. And the same shit is happening with this guy Foster. The problem is, Foster is one of them. See, the people that usually do this, the conservatives, the libertarians, the gun nuts, right, they're usually on the cop's side when these things happen. And it just so happens that, you know, the person that shot Foster is one of them. Right? Person that shot Foster is, you know, the aggressor in this case, and Foster is a Second Amendment rights person who believes in small government. So it's like, you know, go to, like, I went to a libertarian sub on Reddit, and you could just see the confusion. They didn't know who to blame. It was like, at first, you know, they started blaming Foster for this, right? And I even have a couple of things here, and I just think, you know, it's interesting to me to see this type of misinformation, right? I went to, this is Our Libertarian on Reddit, right? And come on, left monitor. I'm waiting for this thing to open the damn picture. Come on, open the picture. Shit, did my computer just freeze? I hope not. I think something might be wrong though. Am I still broadcasting here? I hope I am. Yeah, we're still going. Okay, good, good. Let's see. Close this. Close the window. Okay. So sorry about that. Something happened. It didn't want to open my photograph for some reason. Come on, fucking Windows. Bill Gates, fix your fucking computer. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay, what do we got here? Okay, so here is a comment from Our Libertarian. All right, let me just go to this real quick. And let me turn on my left monitor. Bam. And I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. All right, live stream footage from the event as well as witness accounts show that Foster fired 5 shots at the person driving with an AK-47 before the driver returned fire and killed him. This man was a terrorist who attempted to murder someone. Get out of here with your praise for him. Problem is, nothing like that happened at all in the slightest, and in real life, Foster didn't shoot anything. His rifle has not been fired, and that's according to the police. And it's funny to me to see that this is what, you know, because these are the people that usually would be blaming the victim. If Foster happened to be black, if he happened to be, say, shot by a cop, they would be all so happy going in there and, you know, trying to dig up stuff on him. Right. So then it so happens, okay, let me switch to my next, this one here. Come on, open up. Okay, so after, later on in the same thing, somebody confirms that, hey, the cop, you know, his rifle was not fired, right, and that the guy in the car fired first. Here's the same response by the same guy. Even if that is true, I've already stated multiple times, that doesn't make it murder. At worst, it makes it unintentional manslaughter. Yeah, so shooting somebody 5 times, that's not murder, just manslaughter. And more likely than not, a terrible accident that occurred because a string of unfortunate events all happening at once, which seems like that this is considering both shooters were released without charge. So, as it so happens, the guy that shot Foster was released pending the investigation, and then the other protester that shot at the guy who shot Foster was also released. These people, their names have not been released either, which is probably for the best. The driver was clearly not intending to hurt anyone as he stopped and didn't run anyone over, and then didn't fire until the other shooter fired and called 911 and reported it afterwards. Not true. That is not what happened. The guy in the car, the shooter, is the one who fired first. He fired first. He sped his car at the people in the protests, right? All you're doing by saying this was murder is pushing a false narrative that's just going to lead to even more violence. See, and this is the shit that floats around, because in that particular subreddit, I also went to Facebook, and then I went to the libertarian candidate for president that no one's heard of. His name's Joe Jorgensen or some shit like that. Who even fucking knows? I like how nobody's talking about the Green Party or the Libertarians this year. It's like they're a fucking, I'm good. They're like a non-entity in this election. Anyway, I went to his subreddit. And I went to a couple other ones, and I basically saw this same type of reaction. That being that they don't know what to do because the victim in this case is one of their own. And it's almost like the narrative has just been turned upside down for these people. And it's funny and also fascinating to see that the more you read on, the more suddenly when the truth starts becoming apparent, you know, that this guy was, not only was this guy the victim, Foster, but he was also one of them. Suddenly you start seeing them turn around. Suddenly you see them start taking their side. And it's like, and it kind of goes to show that with a lot of conservatives in general, right? But especially it seems the more conservative you are, the more this is true. They're not capable of empathy with anyone until something happens to them. Then they're capable of suddenly going, ah, I understand now. So it's like all these people out there that are making apologies for the stimulus package going away and just saying shit like go get a job, blah blah blah, whatever, you don't deserve to have this money. All these people who are like throwing a pissy fit, you know, a fucking hissy fit because the stimulus gave people an extra $600 and that could lead some people to be making more money from unemployment than they did on, you know, being employed at their shitty fucking minimum wage jobs. You know, they don't understand because they've never been in that position, because their mindset says, you know, their mindset dictates that they're incapable of empathy until it happens to them. And now it's suddenly starting, you know, this just happens to be one of those cases where, hey, now this entire fucking subreddit, you know, now maybe next time someone gets blown away for a dumbass reason, either by a cop or by a fucking, you know, citizen standing their ground for whatever reason, maybe now they'll be able to emphasize, you know, that a little bit of empathy will come from these guys, and they'll be able to, like, understand, like, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's just like that time that guy Foster got blown away, you know, for fucking doing nothing wrong. And not only, you know, not only doing nothing wrong, but actually, like, trying to defend people. Maybe now they'll get it. And it's really kind of shitty to say that, but that's just kind of how it is in this country. You know, a large portion of the people in this country, that's just how they think. It's a certain kind of belligerent selfishness that comes with the conservative mindset. I guess that's what it is. This sort of like my friend Raph says it pretty well. That sort of just, you know, fuck you, I got mine kind of mindset. You know, I have a job, so how come you don't have one? Right? That kind of thing. Oh yeah, I have a 401k and I have, you know, healthcare and I have all this shit. How come you don't have one? Get with the program. You know what I mean? And it's like they're not capable of really understanding how people who are less fortunate than them, you know, got in the situation they are. And let's be honest, most people who are less fortunate than them were just born that way, you know, and that's just how it is. You're usually born into whatever socioeconomic strata that you're currently in, and chances are, if you were born in that level, you know, if you were born in that strata, chances are you're gonna stay there, you know. Anyway, so that's kind of fucked up. Yes. Anyway, this guy Foster, as far as I'm concerned, is a fucking hero, and I hope that you know, I'm glad to see that, you know, I mean, it's shitty. It's shitty that it takes something like this to change people's hearts and minds, right? But that's just kind of human nature. You know, I don't even want to say human nature really, but that's sort of just the nature of American conservatism. You know what I mean? That this is what it takes. This is what it takes for them to understand. It has to be shitty for them as well before they care about other people. You know. So, yeah, okay, that's going on with this dude. And, you know, I do want to say a couple other things about this, like I mentioned, like, last time, you know, this right now, what's going on in Portland, and then also soon to be other cities in the country, if not already, with Donald Trump and sending his fucking secret police officers and shit, you know, this is what gets me about that, right? Because pretty much every conservative whack job and every pundit, every conservative pundit, every right-wing conspiracy theorist, you know, since the fucking 60s, you know, since even before that, even the 1950s even, has been talking about how one day One day, the government was going to show up in the street and start dragging people away and arresting them without cause and throwing them in prison without trials, right? And, you know, this is just, it's been a staple, right? This trope of illegal federal troops in the streets taking away your rights is something that has been out there for decades, especially from the conservative people. This is something that, you know, the David Koresh and all those guys, and like, you know, fucking Timothy McVeigh, the guy that blew up the Oklahoma City bombing, and fucking Ruby Ridge, right? This is all shit that they like claimed about in their wacky conspiracy theories. You know, Lyndon LaRouche, those people, you see it from coming from the Blaze. You see it on pretty much, you know, like townhall.com. Like just throw it, get a list of wacky conservative websites and put them on a dartboard, and get a dart and throw it and go to whichever one it lands on, and you will find people talking about this on there, on whatever website it is. It doesn't matter which one it is. You know, the more wacky it is, the more wacky and fringe and right-wing it is, the more likely you're going to find reference to this sort of, you know, authoritarian takeover in the street. Usually in reference to they're going to come and take your guns away, right? But, and it's shit they've been talking about forever, and now the fact that it's actually fucking happening, none of them are out there, you know, they're not only are they not doing anything, right? Not only are they not out there protesting or whatever the fuck, they're actually fucking supporting it. And the reason they're supporting it is because their ridiculous conservative messiah is the one who's fucking doing it. And it's the most ridiculous thing. You know, I did kind of talk about this a lot during the last stream, and, you know, it bears repeating. It bears repeating because it's sort of like somebody who stands around all day saying that the sky is fucking falling all day for years and years and years, and then when the sky suddenly falls, just ignores it and goes, what are you talking about? The sky ain't falling. You know, like, fuck you, dude. You've, like, for years, you've been talking about this shit. You know, Alex Jones, for decades, has been talking about one day the government's gonna come and round people up, you know. Illegally, soldiers in the street. You know, that's supposed to be illegal, and that's like the reason why the military is not out there right now. And what it is, it's a mix of federal agencies, because usually it's the Federal Protection Service are the ones that are supposed to be out there, right, defending federal landmarks and things like that. It's supposed to be the Federal Protection Service, but what's happened is that Bill Barr has conscripted essentially lots of officers from other you know, agencies, you know, ICE, Border Patrol, right, and most notoriously them, but also the FBI, and then also people from the I can't remember the name of it, the prison organization, whatever the prison guards are, you know. Basically, those are all the guys, yeah, and those are those dudes that you're seeing out there, you know, in Portland and soon to be other cities. Apparently they're leaving Portland now, but these are the guys that are in camouflage, grabbing people and throwing them into unmarked vans. Apparently the vans are rentals, right? So it's like they're not even police cars or anything like that. They're just vans that they fucking rented from like a Hearst, you know, or Hertz or some shit like that. You know, Hertz Rent-A-Car, whatever. And they're just grabbing people off the street, throwing them in a fucking van. They're not telling anybody who they are, where they're from. In fact, I have a couple of videos of this. So here's a guy that, let me pull this up. Hopefully YouTube is not going to kick me for this. I'm still streaming, right? Okay, good. I have the streaming thing in another tab, so I'll keep checking in every couple minutes. Let's see. So there was the dude that I have this. Let's see. Where the hell is it? Oh, god damn it. I had a video. There's a video of a guy on a bike who was just like minding his fucking business. And, shit, is it this one? There's that one. Yeah, and cops just roll up on him, grab him. Ah, here it is. So here's a video. I will just use VLC player. And okay, here we go. Let me show on my left monitor. So this is a video. This is kind of infamous by now. It's been a couple of days since this went up, so you might have seen it already. And basically what happens, there's a guy on a bike that a bunch of cops just run out and just grab him for no fucking reason. So check this shit out. This is only a couple seconds long here. So watch. Dude on a bike. Cops just fucking mob him. And then they start blaring this fucking, you know, look at that shit. Look how like dystopian and surreal and dystopian this is. Like, first off, this dude on the bike wasn't doing shit. Riding a fucking bike, right? And he's like right back here, and then you'll see it right around here as he passes by. This cop right here suddenly sees him, flips out, starts chasing him for fucking no reason. See, it's like, see, he like makes eye contact with him, and that's all it took. All it took was him making eye contact, and then all these guys fucking jump him and beat the crap out of him. And then you start hearing this loudspeaker in the background, you know, like it's fucking Big Brother or some shit, right? Like, what the fuck is that? Like, loudspeaker? You know, you will be shot if you fall. God damn, unbelievable. See, it's not supposed. Here's the thing about this. This guy wasn't doing anything. This guy on this bike, riding a fucking bike. Okay. You're not supposed to get arrested for just riding a bike, right? Just you know, there wasn't, like, you saw that there really even wasn't a protest going on right there. Not really. There was a couple of people. There wasn't a riot, right? There wasn't people burning down buildings. There wasn't like guys throwing Molotov cocktails and smashing fucking windows or any shit like that. It was like a couple of people standing around with signs and shit. And then a dude rides by on a bike, and I guess he just rode a little too close, something like that, and I guess maybe he looked at him wrong, who even knows what he did, and they just run up and fucking, like, attack him like that, you know. And then, here's the thing about this, right? Most of the people who are getting busted like this by these guys, by these federal cops, they're just letting them go. You know, apparently they've arraigned, like, 9 people, or something to that effect. But most people, they just let them go. And that's it. You know, one guy said that the minute he asked for a lawyer, they let him go. And it's like, well, why do they do that? Because they know this shit's illegal, you know. And here's the thing about this, okay? Because when you're arrested, you know, there's a reason why the cop has a uniform. There's a reason why the police officer has a badge with his name on it. All right. First off, that uniform is authority. So when you see, you know, a uniformed police officer, you know, it's illegal to imitate a police officer, right? You'll go to jail for that. So you know that this is a real cop that's busting you, right? That's the idea behind it, at least. That's why they wear a uniform, okay? You know, so that's number one. Second reason why they have a badge on them, right? And here's another thing is that in most states, I think it's pretty much all the states, if you ask for the police officer for proof of ID, they're supposed to give you a business card or something. They're supposed to give you proof of who they are, you know, if you ask them. So if cops come to your door in the middle of the night and they knock on your door or whatever, and they want to be let in because they think, you know, whatever, XYZ, the way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to be able to go, let me see your badge, let me see your ID. And then they're supposed to show it to you. That way you know they're really cops, and they're not, you know, criminals dressed up like cops, or they're not like whatever. You know, that's the idea behind that. That's why they do that. These guys, you notice, don't have that. They don't have any identifying marks whatsoever. Right. So why is that? Well, how come they don't have badges with their names on them? Right. How come they don't give you any ID or tell you who they are or what organization they're with? Or when they arrest you, they don't even tell you where you're going. You don't get it. You also don't get any Miranda rights. They're not reading anybody their rights, which is that right up off the bat means you get out of jail free. Right? If any of these actually go to trial, all of these people are going to get off because they're not reading their rights to them, right? So guess what? That's a fucking get out of jail free card. Right? Oh shit, you can't even see the part I'm drawing. Let me just move down here. Okay. Right. How come they're doing that? How come they're not telling people who they are? It's because it allows them to get away with stuff. Like, if you don't know who the person is, right? If you don't know, like, who the person is who arrests you, if they happen to do something like, say, beat the living shit out of you, you have no recourse. You know, these guys don't have body cameras. You know, there's no accountability. That's the reason why. You know, that's the reason why it's for accountability. You know, that's why cops have badges. That's why they have their name tags on. That's why they're supposed to tell you who they are, so they're accountable. That's why they're supposed to have fucking body cameras on, recording everything they do. So if they do something illegal, the theory is they can be held accountable. Well, these guys don't have any of that shit because they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want them to be able to be held accountable. And we're already seeing reports of them sexually harassing people, you know. That was one, I saw that on Democracy Now! Actually. If you want to get the real liberal media, you know, the real, like, you know, like, people, they complain about the liberal media and all that shit, you know, CNN or MSNBC. That's pussy media. Okay, you know, that's media for weenie. The real liberal media, where they talk to communists and anarchists and all that shit. You want to go to Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman, right? That's where you're going to get the real progressive voices. That's where you're going to hear people like, you know, communists, and you're going to hear about, like, actual real leftists with real ideas. Stuff like that. Anyway, but yeah, that was a report that was on there. Fucking women are getting abducted by these fucking, you know, federal secret police, and they're reporting sexual harassment. You know, and the thing is, it's like, well, they have no idea who the guy was, and they have no way to, and who are they going to tell anyway? So they report it to the cops. What are the cops going to fucking do about it? You know, they don't have jurisdiction over these guys. And it's like a terrorism tactic. That's what it is. That's what these guys are there for. Right. And then something else, this also was in, this was in ProPublica. I don't have a link, but I'm sure you could look it up. Apparently, when these people are getting busted and then they're getting released, one of the things that is the contingent upon that release is that they're not supposed to show up at any more, you know, protests. So they're basically saying, okay, you can be released. Here's the conditions of your release. You're not to go to any more protests until the investigation is complete, blah, 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 right? So why would they do that? So they're basically, it's an intimidation tactic. You know, you have a constitutional right to peaceably assemble, right? And some of these people, this was also in ProPublica, some of these people are reporting that they're being, the reason they were arrested were misdemeanors. Right. Well, you're not supposed to fucking bust somebody and throw them in prison over a fucking misdemeanor, okay? Like, a misdemeanor is something that you get a ticket for. You know what I mean? Like, speeding. A speeding ticket is a misdemeanor, right? Federal cops are not even supposed to be prosecuting that kind of shit anyway. You know what I mean? Like, an FBI guy doesn't pull you over and give you a fucking speeding ticket. That's just not what they're supposed to do. There's certain things that they're supposed to, you know, that they're mandated to investigate. You know, misdemeanors are not, you know, misdemeanors are things like spitting on the sidewalk, littering, you know, vandalizing something. Even vandalizing a federal building is a misdemeanor. Okay, like if you were to go spray paint the federal, you know, the federal courthouse downtown, you know, that's not a crime against the federal fucking government. Right? Not really. It's a crime against the city. It's a misdemeanor that you get a fine for. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to be going to prison for shit like that. And that's how basically this is like being abused. You know, this is you know, people are talking about, because you're starting to see people defending these assholes online, especially on Reddit. You know, Reddit is very much very right wing in a lot of places. You know, the stuff you see on the front page tends to be a little more moderate, dig a little bit deeper, and Reddit is kind of a cesspool of right wing, alt right pieces of shit. Right. Especially now that they fucking banned the Donald. All of these people have no place to go, so they're starting to spread out into the rest of the website. Right? So, give it some time, they're all going to get fucking banned again. But in the meantime, we have to put up with all their bullshit. And you're starting to see people defend these guys, you know, and it's like, no, man, this is like serious abuse of fucking power. You know, like I said basically last time, this is like the worst thing that I've ever seen a president do. Just ever. In my entire life. I mean, I know I'm only like, you know, I'm not like fucking 100 years old or any shit like that. But this is worse than what any president in my lifetime has ever done. A bigger fucking violation of civil rights than anything that I can even think of. I can't even think of anything, you know, in God, the last 60 years that even compares to this shit. It's like you have to go back to like the fucking 30s or something. You know, you have to go back to like fucking, you know, the government throwing Japanese people in internment camps to find something that even compares to this. As far as how blatant and like blatantly fucking unconstitutional it is against civil rights here. Anyway, fucking ridiculous. Oh god, how long have we been streaming? Let me take a look here. 43 minutes. Jesus Christ, time flies. A couple of other things I wanted to get to here. So, one thing at one point I did want to bring up is, you know, I don't know if you guys remember the Bundy Ranch protesters. Do you guys remember those guys? You know, in 2016, I made a couple of videos on myself, but there was a guy named Cliven Bundy who was a, you know, he's one of those sovereign citizen kind of dudes. People that think that, you know, they don't believe the federal government has any jurisdiction over them. And it gets really weird and esoteric. And a lot of it is, I mean, it's all just made up bullshit, you know, but they start talking about, like, it's sort of like when conspiracy theorists try to become lawyers, but then they just believe all this weird, wacky, untrue bullshit about the law, right? You know, like, for example, Cliven Bundy, like, they're one of those guys that think that the federal government has no jurisdiction, and the only government that he, like, recognized was his county sheriff, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, you know, maybe we could do a video on a stream about sovereign citizens once. They're a fucking riot. They're just the wackiest of the wacky. So, this guy Cliven Bundy, in 2016, kind of led a movement of right-wing crazy people who went and occupied a federal building in Oregon, right? Funny how all of this shit happens in Oregon. I don't know why Oregon seems to, like, just attract, you know, it's like, God, dude, I thought all the crazy people went to Florida, but I guess not. I guess they all go to fucking Oregon. Anyway, Cliven Bundy and his friends, basically what it was is that he owed the government something like $1 million because he was a rancher, and he was illegally letting his cows graze on federal land. And finally they went to go arrest his ass because he let it pile up like to like $1 million or something like that. And then he got like busted like fucking burning some shit illegally on federal land, and they finally went to arrest him. And a bunch of his supporters, you know, armed supporters, went down with guns and took over a federal building. And they hung on to it for a number of months in 2016. It was in 2015 and 2016, if you remember. Something like 3 months these guys held out, you know. And what's funny is that I remember at the time, because I made a bunch of videos about this while this was happening. It was at least like 2 months these guys occupied this fucking building, right? And while this was happening, Cliven Bundy goes out and he's on TV, you know, and all this stuff. He's talking to the fucking news. He like was on this talk show while all this is happening. The cops aren't arresting him, right? And I'm thinking to myself, when this happened, I'm like, you know, if this guy was a left-winger, if he was like, say, an anarchist or something, or a communist, or, you know, part of like BLM, because BLM was around back then too, you know, they would have busted him in a nanosecond. I kept thinking about that, and it's like, you know, now think about, okay, these guys, right? Think about what would have happened if in 2016 Barack Obama decided, like, okay, you know, because Obama was the president then. I know it seems like a lifetime ago, right? If he would have decided, okay, I'm going to send troops down to go take back this federal building from these protesters. And not only that, I'm going to send troops in unmarked vehicles to just run up and start snatching people from this protest and throwing them in the vans and carting them away to who knows where without telling people who they are. Can you imagine the shit show that would have happened? You know, Cliven Bundy was on Fox, right? He had an entire Fox News network basically taking his side when that shit was happening, right? He went on, I'm not kidding, this guy went on talk shows, police were not arresting him on talk shows. It finally went bad because the cops finally, after like fucking 2 months, said, okay, we let this guy get away with way too much. We have to fucking go in there, you know, and clear him out. And they ended up shooting one person. I think one person ended up dying because, you know, they gave him plenty of warning. They even delivered mail to these people while they were like held up in this fucking illegally occupying this building with guns, you know, like when the left-wing protesters occupy a building, right? Like say the Chop or whatever, or Chaz, you know, down in Seattle or something like that. When they occupy a building, left-wingers, you know what they do? They go inside and they start chanting and they go, "This building's ours now. We're occupying it," right? And they chant and they sit on the floor and they sing songs and they chain themselves to trees and shit like that. That's not what these guys is. These guys went in with guns, said, "Get the fuck out of here or we're going to shoot you," and forcibly took over a fucking building. And then held it for, you know, months, right? And in the meantime, people are sending them pizzas, they're getting their fucking mail, they had like a GoFundMe going, their leader is getting on fucking TV to like, you know, in front of millions to spout his stupid bullshit. And it just blows me away to see, like, the disparity about how, you know, how the right wing in this country is really treated with, like, kid gloves. You know, not just kid gloves, like fucking, I don't know, man. It's like, they get away with shit that, like, the rest of us have no fucking chance of getting away with. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know, is it because they have guns on them? Is it because they're armed and the cops are afraid of a shootout? Is that what's fucking happening? I don't understand. I mean, I really think it's just it's a bias. You know, it's a bias in the news and in the government itself against the left. That's the only thing that I can think of. The only thing that I can think of is that it's just, you know, there's too many fucking crazed right-wingers in power who, like, use these guys to further their own political agendas. That's really the only thing that I can fucking believe, because, I don't know, man. I just don't fucking get it. I mean, it's no coincidence that, you know, these troops and shit are only being sent to states that are blue states. You know what I mean? Like, there's protests all over the fucking country. There's protests in Florida. There's protests in Texas. You know, this guy Foster got shot in Texas. You know, so it's not like it's not happening. You know, it's not like there's only protests in Oregon and Los Angeles and you know, Chicago or whatever. But those are the only places that these federal fucking troops are showing up at. You know, it's ridiculous, man. It's fucking ridiculous. So here's something that I wanted to bring up here. This is interesting. You guys remember back a few weeks ago? I think I can show this without getting kicked. This here is a follow-up to a story that we had. This guy, Umbrella Man. Do you remember this guy? Right after George Floyd, you know, after that first happened and the protests began, there's footage of this guy right here walking up, and this is in Minneapolis, and he walks up to an AutoZone, starts smashing the fucking windows in this AutoZone, right? And the BLM people who are at this protest walk up to him. In fact, I think I showed this video because, like, the suspicion at the time was that this guy was an undercover cop, you know, and everybody thought he was when it was happening. They're like, hey, fucking, are you a cop? And, like, in the video, like, there's a kid with a pizza who couldn't have been more than 20, 18, 19, 20, following this guy, asking him questions like, what the fuck are you doing, blah, 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 why are you smashing those windows, right? And it turns out, yes, Umbrella Man is actually a white supremacist. And they haven't released his name, although I did see on the Young Turks, they did find out what his name is, but this particular article in the Tribune doesn't actually say. And it turns out that he is part of a biker gang, right? First off, they're associated with the Hells Angels, and the biker gang is called the, God, what the fuck are they called? Something Aryan something or others. I can't remember. Aryan Cowboys. That was the name of this dude's biker gang, right? That smashed these windows. And apparently, apparently this guy was also connected to a gang that assaulted a woman in Minnesota. Right. So here's an entry by a woman named her name was Sophia Rashid. And God damn it, Facebook, fuck off. Okay, go away. Thank you. God, I hate Facebook so much. But anyway, this is Sophia Rashid on Facebook telling her story, and I'm going to put the links to all of these things down in the bottom. Has a very, very long story about how she was out with her daughter, and in this town, which was Stillwater, Minnesota, and a bunch of Nazis show up and basically start fucking patrolling downtown. And apparently, that guy Umbrella Man is one of these people. Right, so this is Stillwater, Minnesota, which is, sounds like a pretty much middle of nowhere town. Bunch of fucking Nazi biker asshole dickweeds show up, start intimidating this woman. Apparently she had to, like, the employees of this restaurant she was at, went out in a big crowd to surround her and help her get back to her car, and then she had to hole up in this fucking hotel, and she finally called the cops in order to get them to come escort her to her car because these guys were fucking with her. All of these, like, Nazi biker fucking lamos, behold the master race, people, Aryan fucking cowboys. And I guess these are the employees that helped her get to her car. Right. Let me turn this off. So I'm gonna put this, but if you get a chance, I'm gonna put this in the bottom after this stream is done with. This is actually a very interesting read about what happened to this lady. And basically the only reason she got away was because some other people, the people that were at the restaurant and at this hotel, defended her. And you just kind of think, it's like, man, imagine that. Imagine just, because I don't know about you, but shit like this doesn't happen where I live, right? I don't have that experience. I've never been mad dogged by a gang of Nazis ready to fucking beat the shit out of me or kill me. I've never been stalked by a gang of white supremacists, right? I don't know. I think because I passed for white. You know what I mean? Like, if you were to see me walking down the street from a distance away, you would probably think I'm a white person. I got some of that white privilege going, even though I'm like half Asian, right? But I've never where I live, at least, I've never felt that type of danger ever in my life, and I can't imagine what it would be. And and you think about, God, like, what the fuck is wrong with people? How could somebody do that? Just some random fucking person is out there, like, look at out there looking for trouble, ready to just beat somebody up for what? Because she was a Muslim. I mean, that's all I don't know, man. This is the kind of shit that, like, you would hear about, coming from other countries. This is not supposed to happen in the United States. You know what I mean? Like, this sort of sectarian racial violence is the sort of thing that growing up, you would hear about this kind of thing. Like, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, you'd hear about places in, like, say, you know, Kosovo or some shit like that. You know, ethnic cleansing. Right? And you just think it's like, we're not so much different, you know, from all those places that we had to, you know, we went and sent our military to go defend people and shit, supposedly. Even though in real life it probably wasn't, but supposedly that was the idea. We're defending people, you know, from sectarian fucking ethnic cleansing. And you think, it's like, man, we're really not that far away from that ourselves. It's like, these people actually want that shit. You know, like, that's something that you got to remember. Everybody out there has to remember, right, when we're dealing with these types of radical, insane people on the right. This is what they want. You know, you got to remember that. They, like, those guys in those pictures right there, these people at the fucking protests or whatever, who are out there smashing windows, like that piece of shit who fucking smashed those windows at that AutoZone. This is what they're trying to do. They want things to deteriorate in this country. You know, they want it to get worse. They want it to get bad so that general violence breaks out in the street, because that's their, like, ridiculous white supremacist wet dream, you know, is starting the fucking race war. You know, these boogaloo assholes, right, that are out there in their dumbass Hawaiian shirts. You know, I'm sure you've probably heard of those guys, right? The 3%ers, right? These fucking morons who are like these stand in the fucking gap morons. All of these people, you know, this is what they're trying to achieve. You know, them and their allies in government, you know, and people like Stephen Miller, right? Like Sebastian Gorka, that guy is a fucking bona fide fascist, you know, and their allies in the Trump administration, this is their goal. Their goal is to start a fucking race war in this country, right? I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. It's pretty, and I don't know. Where was I going with this? There was something I was going to talk about here. Let me go back to my notes. Sorry, I got a bunch of windows open. Jesus Christ. What have we talked about that? Talked about the Bundy Ranch guys. Talked about that. Okay, well, there was one more thing. Before we turn it over to... Yeah, we're about an hour in. Okay. Before I turn it over and start going through some of the comments here, I do want to talk about, of course, the pandemic, because, you know, we can't get through a live stream without talking about the pandemic. It's like the elephant in the room, the fly in the ointment, the big, huge, giant elephant turd in the punch bowl is the pandemic. So, as of today, let me see how many people are dead. You know, this has become a ritual with us in these live streams here, you know. Coronavirus deaths. In fact, it's already here in my Google search history. And 153,000 deaths is what we're at right now in the United States. If you remember last week when we did this stream, what was it? Last Tuesday? It was 144,000. That's 9,000 people in a week. Jesus Christ. Lord Almighty. Jumping holy fucking God on a pogo stick. What the fuck? 9,000 people in a week. This is what we're at. This is what's going on in the country right now. This is what's happening when our leaders are saying we should be sending our kids back to school, and they're cutting the fucking federal stimulus for people. So I do want to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, the federal unemployment benefits, those just ran out. So if you were living off of that, if you were living, if you were depending on unemployment, that extra $600, you can kiss that goodbye. And, it wouldn't be right to blame only the Republicans for this, because personally, I think the Democrats have not done enough in order to, help people during this pandemic. But they seem to be doing a lot more than the Republicans do. And the reason why this shit took so long is because of Mitch McConnell. The reason why they are cutting the they're cutting the extra $600 a week from $600 to $200. The reason why they're doing that is because of Mitch McConnell. Okay. Democrats wanted to keep that $600 how it was. Mitch McConnell wouldn't have it. And so now that's being reduced to $200. You can thank Mitch McConnell for that. He was the one that got that in there, right? There's going to be another $1,200 stimulus, but if you make over a certain amount of money, I think what it is, if you make more than, let's see, oh, fuck you, computer, snooze, okay. I think what it is, if you make more than $50,000 a year and less than $70,000, right? Like if you make in between, like if you make less than $50,000 but up to, then you get the $1,200, right? So that's good. So you go, okay, well that's actually going to, the people that make the least amount in the country, right? But there's a catch. They're using taxes from last year in order to determine that, right? So if you last year, let's say you made, I don't know, 40 grand, right? That's not a bad, or even, $50,000. And let's say you've been laid off this year, due to the coconut virus, right? The C word. They're going to use your taxes from last year to determine if you actually need this $1,200, and you ain't going to get shit. So that's the first fucking problem with this, right? Second problem is that if you make over a certain amount of money, for every extra like $1,000 you make, you get like they've subtract $5 from the stimulus. So eventually, let's say you're making, like everything over $50,000, for every $1,000 they subtract $5, right? So if you made $80,000 last year, right, they're gonna subtract what is that, 30 times 5, so they're gonna subtract like $150 from it. So basically it peters out the more you make, right? Which is bullshit. See, the whole reason behind a fucking stimulus in the first place is supposed to be to stimulate the fucking economy, right? Well, if you're not giving the people money to stimulate the economy, then what the fuck is the point of having the stimulus in the first place, right? That's what you're hearing. You're hearing from the Republicans, shit like, yeah, people are making more money, on unemployment than they were at their jobs. They don't like that, right? And, first off, I think they don't like it because they know that it's a fucking criticism on how shitty, and low the wages are in this country. If you're actually making more in unemployment than you were from your job, then that means your job fucking sucks. And it's a bullshit job. And why would you want to go back to it anyway? If you're making that much money, why do you want to put yourself at risk of dying? You know what I mean? Because that's what it is. The chances are, if you're making, if that's what you're making, chances are you probably either work in a restaurant or retail or something, right? So if you work in a restaurant, you're not choosing to not go to work. Okay, if you work retail, if you work minimum wage at a store or a mall or something like that, you're not choosing not to go back to work. What's happening to you is that you can't go back to work because the place where you're working is closed. All right, so that's what they're not fucking getting. Okay, there's this this myth like, oh, people are not going back to work because they're making more. Bullshit. They're not going back to work because their fucking job is closed. Okay, you know, most of the restaurants out there are closed right now, right? They'll be open for a couple of hours a day, if even that. And since nobody can fucking sit inside when they're eating, they don't need to have as many servers, right? You know, all the places in Los Angeles are closed. You know, it's outdoor seating only. And some of the restaurants are starting to put tables and shit in the parking lot because they don't have outdoor patios, right? So that they can actually have a business and actually have shit that's open, you know, because you can't sit indoors anymore, right? Well, you know, that reduces your table. Let's say you own a restaurant, and let's say your restaurant has 50 tables, right? And 12 of them outside. Well, suddenly you're outdoor seating only. So now you only have 12 tables for your whole fucking restaurant. Well, you don't need a staff of 20 waiters to service 12 fucking tables. You need one, right? 2 max. You know what I mean? So all of these people are not, it's not that they're not choosing to go back to fucking work. It's that they can't go back to work because their place is closed, their place doesn't need them. I'm sure some of them are employed, and it's like they're getting 1 shift a week, you know, whereas before they would get 4 or 5 shifts a week, you know. That's what's fucking happening, right? That's what's going on. And if you're like a retail person, if you work in a mall, the fucking malls are closed. No one's going to the goddamn mall, you know. All the little stores out there, they're all fucking closed. Like, so it's that's what's wrong with this. That's what's wrong, you know, with basically this stimulus package. You know, it's the entire premise is wrong in the first place, and that's what they're doing. They're not actually helping anybody, you know, because the fucking Republican, and I think what it is, you know, they understand this, and what really is going on is they just really don't want to actually give any money to poor people. You know, they want to give all the money to the fucking corporations and the rich people and their banker friends, like they have been, you know, and that's why people like, you know, fucking the CEO of Amazon, fucking Jeff Bezos, is making, like, that guy's, like, his wealth went up so much he's going to be, like, the world's first trillionaire, apparently. I was reading about it. Like, he might actually be worth $1 trillion now. He wasn't before all this shit started, right? And it's obscene. It's obscene that this is what they think, you know, this is what they're doing. They're taking this opportunity to rob us blind. Just kind of like the same way back they did in 2008, although this is a lot different than what happened in 2008. But if you remember how, like, basically the Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party and all of that shit arose out of the politicians giving all that money to corporations in 2008 when the fucking economy crashed for no good reason, right? If you remember that shit, people went fucking nuts. And it's like they're doing it all over again. They're doing it all over again. They're taking this opportunity to just fucking empty the treasury out and just give it to their fucking criminal friends, you know, and that's why the stock market you know, it started to go down now, but for the first, like, 2 or 3 months, the stock market was going fucking bananas, right? How the fuck does the stock market go up during a pandemic when people aren't working? It's because they're dumping money in it, right? And now but here's the thing, is that can only go so far. Okay, they can only extend that so far until shit starts turning south, and it's starting to now. The stock market ain't doing too well anymore, because the real life, you know, the real economy is starting to hit home, right? We got this eviction crisis that's gonna hit next month. Already started in some places in this country. You know, something around 20 to 25 million people kicked out of their houses. They're not, and the government's not doing shit to help people. They're not doing anything, you know. They're going to give you a measly $1,200. That's going to get eaten up in 5 seconds fucking flat. And that's not going to help anybody from, like, losing their houses or getting evicted from their fucking apartments. Where are people supposed to go? You know, I'm sure a lot of people can move in with friends and relatives. but not all of them. You're going to see this massive increase in homeless people, you know, because of the inaction of our leaders in government. And, you know, mainly the Republicans. They're the ones in power. The Republicans are the ones in power. If they wanted to pass something right now, if the Republicans wanted to get a bill passed to help these people, it would happen. Okay. They have the presidency, they have the Senate, right? They could just ram something through the House and it would happen. And the reason why it's not happening is because of them. That's why, right? So it's obscene. It's obscene. You know, YouTube, I think, thinks that I'm like, YouTube thinks I live in a van. Right? Because I watched this tiny house video, and then that spread to a video of a guy who made a little, like, apartment in his van. You know, he basically turned his van into an RV. Like, I watched this video of this guy who built a shower and, like, a fucking bed and all this other shit in his van, right? And now YouTube is giving me all these suggestions for all these van life videos. And, you know, they're fascinating. I mean, you know, myself personally, I don't think I could ever live in a van. I like having stuff. But it's fascinating. And it kind of got me thinking the other day, because the van life thing, if you watch these van life videos, right, the main reason why everybody says they do it is because they want to be financially free in order to live the life they want to live. And they can't do that if they're stuck in a house, because houses are too fucking expensive in this country, right? And you think about that, it's like, so now we have like a whole generation of people who are like choosing to live out of vans. And, you know, and you think about, like, you watch these videos and you're like, well, what do these people do for a living? You know, and some people work from remotely, you know, some of them have IT jobs or whatever where they work from remotely. A lot of them don't. A lot of them do gig stuff. Because if you live in a van, you don't have any rent. And the only thing you need to pay for is food and gas and car insurance, right? And fucking, that's it. And maybe a gym membership so you can go shower in the gym if you don't have a built-in shower in your van or RV or whatever, right? And that's it. And they just live doing deliveries. And one girl said that she, like, just goes on Craigslist and looks up when there's, like, you know, a gig for something. So if they need a server at a wedding or something, or a catering gig or some shit like that, or if someone's asking for a babysitter one night, she'll just do shit like that and make a couple $100 a week. And then that's how she lives, out of her car, and then travels around the country and shit. And I started thinking about that. And it's like, first off, it's kind of amazing, but secondly, I think that's a symptom of the failing of our system, where it's like, and most of these people are young. They're so young, you know. They're in their early 20s, you know, late teens, early 20s. And you're like, it's like an entire generation of people who are just like not participating in larger society. It's the equivalent of in the 60s where, you know, they would say, you know, tune in and drop out or whatever, you know, Timothy Leary, you know, an entire, like, generation of people who just chose not to, like, participate in you know, the wider capitalism, right? That's kind of the same shit that's going on now. But it's like these people, you know, it's sort of like they know that they'll never be able to have the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids and, you know, the little house in the suburbs with, like, the dog and the fence and all that shit. You know, and it's basically the American dream right there. And they don't think that they can participate in it without going into years and years and years of debt and all the associated unhappiness that comes with it. And it's like, that to me is a failure of our system. It's a failure of our society right there. That our society is not robust enough in order to allow new people to enter in and participate to whatever degree they want. That's really sad, you know, and it wasn't like that. Like, I want you guys to know, like, I don't know how old you guys are watching, I see Eggman in the chat. I see Ink Spectra, Dominic Matherson, Cody Course. Thank you all you guys for joining. I don't know how old you guys are. Maybe you might be my age or not. I mean, I'm I'm 44. That's how old I am, right? I know I don't really look it, right? But no, I'm 44 years old. And yeah, when I was growing up, we didn't have that. That wasn't a thing. There wasn't that feeling that there weren't these barriers to entry into society when I was a kid. You know what I mean? When I was in high school and, college. I mean, I went to community college, but you know what I mean? Like late 90s, mid to late 90s, there wasn't this, there was a lot of hope back then. We had, the internet was a new thing, and it was like a brave new world, fucking Cold War was over. Everybody can just concentrate on living the good life and doing what you needed to do and innovating. And, there were jobs up the fucking yin yang. And it was like that for like 20 years, Till fucking Bush came along and fucked it all up, right? The people today, they don't have that. It's like despair out there now. And it has been for like the last, since 2007, 2008. It's sort of like shit crashed in 2008 and it never got better. You know what I mean? And now we have an entire generation of kids who have like come of age then, who have gone to college and taken on all this debt and just seen shit get worse and worse as the years go by. Even, it did get a little bit better for a little while, but, and they just, but not very much, it never kind of came back after 2008. And now they're just sort of like, they're resigned to the fact that they're never going to have the same quality of life that their parents had. And the only way they're going to get any enjoyment out of life is to fucking live out of a goddamn van. I mean, no matter how awesome the van looks, some of these vans are fucking incredible. They're actually pretty awesome, and they kind of make me want to build one. Like, not to fucking live in, but just to do it because it looks fun. But, thank you, Chris. Chris Gullen, I really appreciate that. But yeah, man. So I don't know. I'm just like, it's disheartening to see shit like that. Let's see here. There was some other shit I wanted to talk about here. This doctor that Donald Trump is promoting now, who's a fucking wacko. I don't know if you've seen this person. Her name is Stella Emanuel, and she looks like a fucking faith healer, kind of, sort of. She looks like, she looks like, here's a picture of her. Let me turn on my monitor. This is Stella Emanuel here. And let me just zoom in on that a little bit if I can. Let's see, can I zoom in on this? Stella Emanuel, right here. She looks like? She looks like Miss Cleo. Like, I don't know if you guys remember Miss Cleo. She was like from the Psychic Network. Right. Anyway, apparently this person, Stella Emanuel, is somebody that Donald Trump tweeted. And because she made a video where she said that she's cured a dozen people with hydroxychloroquine or whatever. You remember that? Remember about how, like, a month and a half ago, Donald Trump was telling people to take this hydroxychloroquine shit, and it's like stuff that you put in fucking fish cleaner or whatever. You use it to treat lupus, and it was giving people heart attacks. And then, like, then he suddenly shut up about it. He just, like, everybody forgot all about it, that he was telling people to take this drug that actually fucked them up and didn't help them. Suddenly, now, since this one crazy, wacko fucking religious lady is, like, saying that she cured people with it, now he's tweeting her, And what I think Trump still doesn't understand this. I think Trump still doesn't get that, because he seems to come out and, like, say, like, he said shit like, how come my approval rating isn't higher? I supported Fauci, how come my approval rating isn't higher? He actually complained about that. And I think Trump still doesn't fucking get that since he's the president, every fucking thing he says is going to be scrutinized and pulled apart, right? And people are going to fuss and gloss over it, you know, and fight over it because he's the president. Because that was an office that, until he fucking came around, was where the leader of the free world resided. And not so much anymore. Thanks to him, it's now that's fucking Angela Merkel. She's now the leader of the fucking free world. Right. He still doesn't fucking get it, that you can't, you know, and here's the reason why. He just tweeted this person, this crazy fucking Dr. Emmanuel person. He tweeted this person because she made a video that supported something he said. That's why, right? And now it turns out that this lady has made claims that, you know, she claims that vaccines are made using alien DNA. Right? She seems to believe in incubuses and succubi. You know, she claims that demons are visiting people in their sleep and having sex with them, and that's how they're getting things like cysts, you know, and like weird, like, sexually transmitted diseases and stuff, and another disease called endometriosis, which I never heard of, but apparently that's a disease where for women in their uterus, there's like material that grows in their uterus, and it grows on the outside for this disease, and it's really highly painful and all that shit. Apparently this doctor blamed that on a visit from a fucking incubus. Which is unbelievable, right? And she's claimed that scientists are trying to create vaccines to prevent people from becoming religious. This is the person that Donald Trump is tweeting now. And I just thought this shit was hilarious. I mean, I know it's like, this is light, fluffy, stupid shit that we can laugh at. You know, and I think we need to kind of laugh at these people after all of the terrible fucking things that are going on out there. And all of the people who have died because of this asshole's fucking inability to lead the country in any positive way. I think we need to laugh at him, and we need to laugh at what he does, and what a fucking childish man baby he is. That, you know, because now he's claiming, oh, I didn't know that she did all this stuff. I didn't know she did that. All I did was, you know, and it's like, yeah, you didn't know, because you just saw somebody that supported you and then you tweeted him. The same way that last month he retweeted a fucking video of like people screaming white power, right, at a protest. He retweeted it because they had a Trump sign. So he obviously didn't watch the goddamn video, or maybe he did, I don't know. You know, and I personally think he didn't. I think he just saw, hey, look, this guy's a supporter. I'm going to fucking retweet him because I like people who support me. And I think that's what happened here. He saw, oh, this woman said nice things about me. I'm going to retweet her. And he doesn't fucking get through his dumbass, thick, caveman-like skull that as the president of the fucking United States, people are going to criticize his ass for this. And it's like, ah, man. So there was one thing I wanted to talk about also, Cody. Last time, you mentioned a lot. We were talking last time in the last stream about how there's suspicion that Trump may try to interfere with the election in some way. Right. This is basically the conspiracy theory that's starting to take root, you know. Now, granted, I think, you know, it sounds like it could be plausible, right? But here's basically it. Okay, here's the idea. So, right now, there's going to be a lot of voter suppression and all that stuff. We already know that's happening, right? And they're going to try to shut down the post office so that people can't vote by mail. We know that's something that they're going to try to do. They're going to, at least, if not shut it down, like, try to defund it so that it's at, like, you know, a fraction of its capacity. So mail is late. And when people who mail off their mail-in ballots, they won't show up in time and they won't get counted. We already know that that's something they're trying to do too, right? But the big conspiracy theory is that all of these, and this kind of relates back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the hour, that all of these federal officers, these secret police guys, right, are going to be deployed on election day in order to, quote, defend um, polling sites, right? Which in real life, they're basically going to be there to harass people at polling sites. These are going to be Trump's brown shirts, essentially, who are going to go out to polling sites and, you know, they're already going to be like defunded. So we're already seeing that. You know, we had that one election in where was it? Was it in Chicago? That election where like there was like one fucking polling site for this like entire district, and people were waiting in line for like, you know, hours and hours and hours. We already know that's going to happen, and this is the theory is that he's going to send these guys out to intimidate and harass people when they're trying to vote, and that's going to send a lot of people home, and even, you know, they might straight up fucking abduct people, you know, for whatever dumb reason, right? And yeah, so that's the fear. Now that is plausible, very plausible, right? I personally, like, okay, I don't think that he has the manpower or the willingness from anybody to actually straight up commit a coup and stop the election. I don't think that is going to go over well at all, right? That fear, I'm not scared of that, because I don't think the military has buy-in on that. You know, the military already said that, okay, we're not going to go out there and be your police, you know, your secret police for you, and that's why he's got Bill Barr doing it, right? And I don't think the military would go out and basically support him in a coup, right? Secondly, I don't know how effective that would be. Like, so sending out these federal officers on election day in order to, you know, so they can basically act like brown shirts and suppress the vote. Not sure how effective that's going to be. I guess if they could target specific districts in specific states that they needed to win and sent these guys out, because there's not enough of them, number one. So you got to remember there's only something like 65,000. Like, if you take all of the federal officers in the entire country, you know, really not that many. Like, it's something like, it's less than 70,000, right? That's not enough people to go to every polling place in every, you know, I mean, how many would you need at each polling place around the country, right? What, 20 guys, something like that. So, you know, now conceivably, if they were to say target vulnerable districts in swing states, I could see that being a possibility. I could see them sending some goons down to a place in Michigan or something, and it's like, oh, we need to win this district, and then them hanging out outside of the polling place, which is illegal, by the way, right? Not supposed to be cops at polling places. Okay. So, but I could see them, say, hanging out outside of a polling place and harassing voters who they think would vote Democratic. I could see that being a thing. And the way you got to stop that, right, is you have to get independent observers to come there from the local police department. That's how you do it. Because these guys, since they're federal, they would have no jurisdiction, and the local police would be able to basically run them off. Right. The thing is that cops are very, very, very strict when it comes to shit like that. You know, because the fear is that, okay, well, we'll just get local police cooperating with them because they're all Trump supporters, blah, 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 blah. Not so much. The police are extremely, like, they're very much sticklers for the rules. I mean, you know, they're cops, right? And when it comes to who has jurisdiction over what, they don't play around. You know what I mean? And I could very well see, for example, that actually coming to blows, where if that were to happen, local police would forcibly remove them. I could see that definitely happening. My fear, though, is that in certain states, the police might actually play ball. So, you know, now the worst thing that could happen at, in that situation, the worst thing that could happen in that situation is for protesters to show up and have it get out of hand and give them an excuse to crack down and then close that polling place. Right. So that would be, I think, the absolute worst scenario. You know, let's say you got your one polling place in the fucking city because, you know, Republicans fucking defunded everything and got it all shut down, and now you have people waiting in line for 6 hours in a mask to go vote, and then suddenly these assholes show up, start harassing people, and it turns into a riot. That's all the excuse they would need to shut down that polling place and cancel that entire district. And if they were to do that in targeted districts that they knew were going to turn Democratic, that could be a serious fucking problem. So I'm not going to say that there is no danger of it happening, because there is. And, you know, shit like this has happened before, this type of voter intimidation. You know, what would make this unique is that this would be the first time that it's actually the federal government doing it, you know. But this is all speculation. We have no proof one way or another that this is going to happen, but it is certainly a danger. So I could see that being a problem. You know, I mean, we can pretty much guarantee that there's going to be shenanigans this election, right? There will be. There's going to be, in one form or another, some kind of fucking cheating. Right. There's going to be some voter suppression. There is every election. The Republicans always fucking cheat every fucking time. Right? And it's like nobody ever does anything about it. And the only thing that you can do to circumvent that is to vote. Vote in large numbers. Get, you know, everybody we can to get out there. And, you know, you have to, like, defeat it by fucking just, there just has to be too many people for them to, like, suppress. That's how you defeat this sort of voting suppression tactic. And even if there were a bunch of assholes outside fucking randomly arresting people and stuff like that, you know, you just got to keep showing up. You got to get your friends to keep showing up, and, you know, got to make the biggest fucking stink that you can. Call everybody out, you know, because ultimately these guys are just bullies. That's what they are. They're bullies, and if they think the crowd is going to turn on them, they'll bail. You know, that's what's going to happen, right? So I don't know. I did want to talk about that a little bit. I mean, because I'm not so concerned about him losing the election and then him trying to, like, fucking cancel it, or him using the courts to try to, like, sue his way into winning, or, like, them trying to get the electors to, like, turn on him, or, you know, I guess there's some other way that if he thinks it's been rigged, he can get the House of Representatives. I'm not really worried about any of that so much, because that would backfire hard. But I am worried about voter suppression. I am worried about voter intimidation. You know, and it could be also not even these official, like, you know, federal officers. It could just be a bunch of white supremacist groups, you know, Proud Boys. Proud Boys could show up and just start fucking beating the crap out of people when they try to vote. Right? I bet you $1 million that happens, you know. A bunch of white supremacist assholes show up with guns and just hang out next to the voting place. You know, kind of that subtle threat, you know what I mean? Like, maybe they start fucking, like, yelling at people or something. And then, you know, how many people, if they were to see that coming, they come up to vote and they see that shit happening, they see people with guns arguing. How many people would just turn around and be like, all right, fuck this, I'm not voting. I'm not putting myself in danger. And who would blame them? Who would blame them for turning around? You know, it's like, is it worth your fucking life? You know? I mean, I might think it is, but some other people maybe not. And it's like, you can't blame people for not wanting to die, right? I could see that being a thing too. So it's like, it's, you know, it's not just like Trump and his federal and his secret police we got to worry about. It's also his rabid, crazy fucking supporters that, you know, may just do this on their own. Who knows if, you know, if they will or if they'll be organized or whatever. So this is just shit to think about. You know, we'll see once it comes up. Because here's the thing about this, right? Stuff like this just doesn't happen. Okay. It just doesn't. People just don't decide out of the blue, we're gonna go show up and intimidate voters or whatever. It's planned. It's always planned. And the thing about when people plan shit like this is they can't shut the fuck up about it. So we'll hear people talking about it. If this is something that's going to happen, people will be talking about it before the election starts. You'll hear rumors of it. You'll hear people online bragging about how they're going to do this. And then that's how we'll know, you know, if this sort of thing happens. Okay, so, it's been about, yeah, let's take some time here. And, first off, let's look at what we've got so far. Here's what I got here. Let me just sort of let's zoom up a little bit so you can kind of see the full drawing. That's what I got so far. It's looking pretty good. You know, we actually added a lot right now. I got this whole hand going. Got this, yeah, it's turning out pretty good. Like this sort of plague demon thing. Let me turn this light down a little so you can see it a little better. There we go. Okay, so that looks all right. Let me just kind of pause this. And how about we take some time now and kind of go through some of the comments. Because we got about 25 minutes until I want to end this. So let's take a little bit of time and just sort of review what you guys are talking about. And let's see. If you have anything that you want me to, you know, you want to say or you want me to mention, you know, now's the time. Go ahead and make the comment. Let's see. Cody Course, 11:45 where you live. Oh, wow. Are you on the East Coast? Shit. Oh, thank you, Cody, for staying up so late. What else we got? Cody, that's all right. Dusty Smith of Progressive Talk doesn't always get through his prepared material throughout his 2 or 3 shows. Dusty is awesome. I love that guy's show. I watch him all the time, and I only wish I could be as you know. That guy is actually one of the guys that kind of inspired me to do YouTube videos. Was Dusty Smith, and actually it was because I've been making videos for kind of a while now, at least since '09, I think. It's been a while, but it was really, you know, what really got me started on YouTube, actually, believe it or not, was the YouTube atheist movement. You know, and I'm not really an atheist myself. I'm more of an agnostic, you know. But there was a point around '09, I think, when that was like the atheist debate on YouTube was a big thing. And you know, so there were guys like people like Rebecca Watson, you know. She still makes videos occasionally. There was another guy named Thunderfoot before he turned all fucking like Gamergatey, right? He was a guy I used to watch. TJ Kirk, the Amazing Atheist, I used to watch him. He's still around. He's one of the few guys from back then who's still around. You know, he has kind of some iffy opinions on a few things, you know, a little bit of a redneck, but you know, he's entertaining, you know. And then Dusty came on a little bit later. And Dusty actually, it's funny, he actually got more progressive as time went on. Like, when he started, he was a little bit more of a shit poster when he first started. And he's, like, kind of got, like, more and more progressive as the shows went on. And that was kind of cool to see, like, you know, because I think he was one of the first guys from that era that I identified with a little more politically, you know, like, a lot of the thing about atheists is that, you know, being an atheist doesn't actually necessitate whatever political beliefs you would have, you know. It really has nothing to do with how you vote or what policies you want or whatnot. You know what I mean? And it was what attracted me to it was the belief in science and rationality. That's what got me into it in the first place. You know, and there's another guy named Aaron Ra who still does videos. In fact, he's probably the best known that I think is still around from that era. And he actually he's got some pretty good progressive politics too. So, like I know that, like Aaron Ra ran for He ran for like the school board in Texas and stuff because the Texas school board has a very large amount of power for different school boards in the country because Texas has a very, very large, it's like a very, very large number of school districts, right? So what it is that whatever the Texas school board votes to put in their curriculum, that's what the textbooks that get printed for the country is going to have in it, right? So that's why the Texas school board has been this target for creationists and stuff for like the last 30 years. I mean, I remember Jello Biafra was talking about this shit back in like the fucking 80s. You know, the school board, like, so they continuously, like, the religious right will continuously target that school board and get people elected to it, and so that they can challenge evolution. That's their big thing. They want to challenge evolution, you know, and get like that knocked out of the school books. And Aaron Ra ran for that. You know, he ran for the school board there specifically to stop that from happening so that he could, like, defend evolution and stuff. So, and he's actually really cool. So if you're looking for somebody with progressive politics who's also talks about, you know, science and rationality and atheism and stuff, Aaron Ra's a good guy. I recommend his channel a lot. But Dusty, dude, Dusty is like, that guy's like so entertaining. Like, seriously, like, he's just a blast to watch, and he's very down to earth, and he makes it very it's very easy to understand when he's talking about something. Oh, sorry, I'm like drawing, but it's like down here, you can't see it, so actually, you know what, I'll draw this shoulder, so it's just so I'm staying in camera. Yeah, he's like very entertaining, and he makes the subjects he's talking about very easy to understand. So it's very much a show aimed at laymen, you know what I mean, and that kind of thing. He doesn't use a lot of like complicated technical language, which is a good thing because it opens it for that people of all levels, I guess, can watch a show and get something out of it. You know what I mean? So he does kind of delve sometimes into like the deeper understandings of this or that or whatever, but he's very good at communicating complex topics in such a way that the layperson can understand it. So that's why I really like Dusty. The guy's awesome as hell. Let's see. What else we got here? Role is becoming more dangerous. Okay, Ink Spectra. Perhaps you should read The Parliament of Horrors. It's about the disgusting quality of our government and things no one notices. Is that, Parliament of Horrors? You know, there was a book by a guy named P.J. O'Rourke a long time ago called Parliament of Horrors. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about something else? Let me do a Google on that. Yeah, is that what you're talking about? Parliament of Horrors by P.J. O'Rourke? Or is that something else? Because I've read that book by him. P.J. O'Rourke, for you guys, if the other people are watching, he's actually a conservative. But he's a humorist, you know, conservative humorist. And he is, from what, by today's standards, would be considered a centrist. Right? Back in the 90s, he was conservative because he believes in things like, you know, the Second Amendment and some other things like that. And he believes in you know, low taxes, shit like that, right? And I read it because basically my dad bought it. So when I was a teenager, you know, he bought like 3 or 4 of his books. He has another one called All the Trouble in the World, which is a pretty funny one where like he goes around to all these different like trouble spots that in like the 90s were like, you know, like were trouble spots, you know, places like you know, Bosnia and stuff like that, and you know, Zimbabwe, and he goes to like places where there's famines and shit like that, and you know, and it's kind of funny. But yeah, I actually did read Parliament of Horrors. It's I'm not, you know, it's a little outdated by this point. I think, when was that written? Like, I think it was written in like the early 90s or something like that. But it's funny how many of those people that in that book are still around, right? I did see him, speaking of PJ O'Rourke, he did go on, he's like an anti-Trump guy now. It's funny, there's an entire section of Republicans and conservatives who are really rabidly anti-Trump. And I think PJ O'Rourke falls in with that crowd as well. You know, you're starting to see ads from these guys. There's a group called the Lincoln Project. You know, they're a group, they're making these anti-Trump ads from a conservative perspective, and those fucking guys are vicious too. Like they don't pull any punches. And it's like, you know, it's kind of cool to see, you know, these are people that I don't agree with politically, that, you know, if I were to be in a room with any one of them, we'd probably end up arguing or whatnot. But it's good to see that we can agree that shit is going south in this country. And the reason why it's going south is because of bad leadership, you know. And it's like, at least we can agree on that much. And it kind of goes to show that we really are not that different in the country. Like, every given person in the United States, you know, we're all Americans, you know. And we all share a culture. It doesn't matter what, you know, color you are, or even where in the country you're from, you know. We all have these sort of basic values that we get from our shared culture. You know, love of freedom and stuff like that. You know, freedom and First Amendment, you know, freedom of speech, right? These are all things that we all share. You know, and the idea that the government should help people, you know, and even those guys, even the small government conservatives who, you know, want to cut all the taxes and give tax breaks to giant mega corporations and all that shit. Even those people are saying, hey man, 150,000 people dead is too much. Right? Even those guys are saying, like, hey, you're not doing anything. Why are you feuding with the head of the you know, your head of infectious disease doctor? Like, why are you feuding with him instead of doing what he fucking says? You know what I mean? Like, shit like that. So it kind of gives me a little bit of hope to see that. So anyway, let's see, let's move on. Blah blah blah. Eggman rocks. Generation X started the second space age. SpaceX and Generation X started deep sea colonization. Eggman, I have no idea what you're saying, dude. I'm sorry. That makes no sense. By the way, I don't know if you guys can hear that somebody outside is just sitting there in their car with their engine running, so sorry if that noise is covering up the computer here. Hopefully it's not too loud. Anyway, moving on. Chris Gillian, I swear this channel deserves more attention. You say some of the realest stuff on this site. Hey man, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That makes me feel good. Cody, these fears about Trump's authoritarian tendencies are partially why we need to vote Trump out. If he gets another 4 years, he'll have more legitimacy to become more authoritarian. Yes. God, I can't even imagine. At this point, I can't even imagine where we'll be in another 4 years. I mean, if he becomes president again. I mean, fucking shit. I don't even want to begin to fucking speculate about that. Cody, I agree with you on Trump canceling the election suing act. He can't do that. Voter suppression is the scariest part. If he suppresses the vote, he gets reelected and he gets more legitimacy to his authoritarian agenda. I don't know if he'll be able to do a coup in 4 years. Who knows? It's not worth the risk, though. Yeah, I know. I mean, just imagine. This is how he's managed to pervert our system in 4 years. You know? And if you think, he's pretty much gotten away with it. Like, he's gotten away with everything we've tried to do to hold him accountable. He's gone through, he's kicked out all of the, you know, what do they call them, inspector generals, so that, you know, those guys in the executive branch, their job is to pretty much police the executive branch and make sure that things are being implemented the right way and there's no grift going on, stuff like that. He's kind of kicked all of those guys out. He's replaced them with yes men and cronies. So now there really isn't anybody in the executive branch left that will investigate him. So the executive branch is no longer policing itself. Okay, so that's one thing we got to remember, right? He's directed the CDC to stop collecting data on deaths from the virus and now it's having that go directly to Health and Human Services. That's something that came out last, I think about a week and a half ago. So now you're going to start seeing, now we're not going to be able to trust, right, what the actual official numbers are anymore. Okay, and lo and behold, right towards the election, watch those numbers start going down, right? We already know that in some places like Florida, for example, we don't have an accurate count of how many infections there are, how many people have died in Florida. We already know that. There is not an accurate count of deaths in Florida, and it's probably several thousand more than what they're reporting. Like, let me see. Let's go back. Let's see. Florida C word deaths. Right. Something around in Florida 6,332. That's the official count in Florida. It's probably closer to 15,000. Right, because way back in fucking April, it came out that they were fudging those numbers there because the governor of Florida, didn't want it to look bad. I can link to some news stories about that. There was like a whistleblower who came out and basically said that, yeah, these guys are not reporting the accurate numbers. So we don't even really know that. So who knows, even by the election, who knows if we're going to have an accurate total of, I'm suspecting it. We're probably going to hit, we're doing roughly 10,000 a month at this point. We'll be close to 200,000 by the time the election rolls around. Right. And how much do you want to bet that what they'll be reporting something significantly lower than that, but the pandemic won't be over? How much you want to fucking bet? Because now those numbers are going through Health and Human Services. They're not going straight from the CDC. So it's like, and this is just shit that he's managed to do. He's just managed to pervert this system of checks and balances that we have in 4 years. Who even fucking knows? Like, who knows in another 4 years if maybe he does get the military on his side. Maybe he will be able to fucking actually do a bona fide military coup and just straight up arrest his political opponents. Who knows? With all the fucking, how much shit that he's managed to pull so far, if we don't stop him now, fuck, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to think about. So this is why, yeah, get out there and vote, man. Get everybody you can, right? Encourage all your friends, your families, your friends that say they never vote, get them too. And be like, man, this is fucking it. This is the one time in your life where you gotta fucking stand up and do something. A couple more. They want to make it look better so they can reopen the economy so that Trump can win another 4 years. Yeah, I think that ship sailed. I think even now, if everything were to go back to normal the way it was, like tomorrow, like let's say miracle cure, bam, corona, see where the virus is cured, go back to work, right? And they made it free for everybody, the economy would still be fucked, I think. And I think 4 months is not enough time for the shit to go back to normal. Now, they can lie and tell us that, because that's definitely the plan. That's definitely, like what you're saying right there, they want to reopen it and try to get things, that's definitely the plan, because they don't want to give us any money. They don't want to, the other countries are not having this problem, because they actually did something to help their people. Canada gave everybody $2,000 a month for the duration of the fucking virus, right? In Europe, in like Germany, and like England and shit, they socialized wages. So they went to like different companies and they said, okay, do not fire your people, do not lay anybody off. We are going to pay them 70% of what they were making. We're going to take their wages, we're going to pay 70% of that. And you just keep them employed. And for the duration of the pandemic, of the lockdown. That's what they did in Europe. And Europe now has a 3% fucking unemployment rate, while we have a 14%. Right? Unbelievable. It's like, that's what we need, That's how you fucking handled it. right? That's how you prevent, you know, people from getting sick and dying and your economy collapsing at the same time. And it's unbelievable how badly they blew it in here. How, you know, I remember during the Obama years, there's this guy I listened to on the radio, Tom Hartman. He actually puts up YouTube videos too, and he's a progressive radio talk show host and an extremely intelligent person. Tom Hartman is extremely intelligent, and he's also very, like, you know, anti-violence. You know, this is not a guy. And here's the thing: is that he'll get up and he'll, like, yell and argue and shit like that with people, but he does it in a respectful and intelligent way. And I really enjoy Tom Hartman, right? One thing that he said on his show, I remember him way back in the day. He said the GOP's worst nightmare is having to actually govern. That was one thing he said back during, you know, this was during the Obama years, where they were, like, you know, basically calling Obama the Antichrist and shit like that, and saying that, you know, their goal was to make him a one-term president, blah, 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 blah. Right. He said, and Tom Hartman came up and he said, I remember, he said, one day they're going to be back in power, right, and we're going to find out what they bring. They bring nothing to the table because they can't govern. The GOP cannot govern. And now we're actually seeing that. We're seeing that because the GOP is in charge right now. You know, Democrats have one half of one branch of government under their control. Right? Everything else is being run by the Republicans. The presidency, the judicial branch is run by the fucking Republicans. The Senate, the majority of state legislatures, the majority of state governorships, it's all being run by the Republicans right now. They're in control of everything. They're calling the shots, and now we're seeing how badly they're fucking it all up. And this looks like shit. I'm gonna erase that. So that's something that we gotta, like, emphasize. We gotta keep that in mind. Like, you know, if they wanted to fucking do something about it, they would. You know what I mean? There we go. I don't know. It's like we're seeing the results of their policies. You know, they're extremely bad policies. They're extremely bad leadership. You know, one thing you're hearing from the Trump team and all that, you know, it's like if Joe Biden becomes president, then you're going to see, you know, this rioting in the streets and all this stuff. This is what'll happen everywhere if Joe Biden's president. And it's like, bitch, this is what's happening when you're president. Right? Like, seriously, like, they're forgetting the fact that they're in charge. They're in charge. How come they're not fucking doing something about it? How come they're not doing things to help people? Real solution. We need real fucking solutions right here. Instead, they're giving us horseshit fucking, you know, bullshit crumbs that don't, like, you know, crumbs that don't actually fucking help anybody, and then throwing people in fucking prison and intimidating people using with fear tactics and shit. That's what they're fucking doing. It just shows they don't give a shit. Oy. Let's see. Europe has... Okay, more Cody. Europe has flare-ups in some places, but they've handled it far better than we did. Fuck yeah, that's for sure. They also don't have a number of fudging like we do, plus they have more testing and universal healthcare. Yeah, that... Man, if there was anything that I thought would turn people onto universal healthcare, it was this. The major Eurozone economies will see a 4% GDP growth. I'm not sure if it's quarterly or yearly, but either way, the EU put forth a huge stimulus package for their member states and citizens. Italy, which has been hit very hard, will get a huge monetary boost from the EU. Yeah, and that's fucking working. And I only hope, you know, see, this is the shit that we need to point out to people, to show them what works and what doesn't. You know, this is what we need for people. You know, this is how you handle. This is how you fucking help people. This is what the government's for, is to fucking be helping people. And there's a perfectly good example right across the ocean right there. How come they can do it and we can't? That's, you know, I mean, I don't know. That's how I'm gonna frame it. you know, I often go on places like Reddit and stuff like that to argue with conservatives, you know, and it's like, this is how you got to frame it, man. It's like, what makes them so much better than us that they can handle these things and we can't? What's holding us back? You know, what's holding us back when fucking your people are in charge? I guess is one way of handling it. I don't know. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much. I think we're gonna go ahead and end this. It's been about 2 hours. Anyway, looking at our picture here, this is what we got so far. We actually made a lot of progress. Me kind of focusing on that. I think I'm just gonna kind of make this around here, and then what I'll do is once we finish this, I'll make prints of this. So if anybody wants one, I can like give you a print of it. In fact, I'll just give them for free for some people, and then I will put it up on my SD store for people who want to watch the rest. I'm gonna go ahead and end this though, because it has been some time, and hey, thank you guys so much. Thank you for hanging out with me. Before we go, I gotta do my ending speech. You know, my ending spiel here. Let's see. Let me just open up all my different social media sites so I can pimp myself. Go to my Instagram. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me see. Sorry, hang on. Let me just open up all my stuff. There we go. And then I think I'll go to Patreon. So what happened is my Patreon, they unlaunched it because nobody joined. Because I didn't actually have any people, so they like took it away. I didn't know that Patreon would do that. So I relaunched it again, but you know, that's okay. Truth is, folks, I don't really need the money that bad anymore because I got a job. So I managed to find a job after 6 months. I know I say this in every live stream now. It's because I'm happy. I'm happy, and my job is actually really good, and I really like it. And I hope I'm working there for a long time, you know. So, but if you like what I do, and you want to support me, you know, so that maybe I can spend more time doing this and less time working, then you can support me on social media. And so here's one of my social media things. This is Instagram, Dirty Kitchen Press on Instagram. And I post sketches here and comics and stuff like that. And, you know, mainly these will be things from my sketchbook or whatever. You know, sometimes I'll do, you know, full color things like that. So, and I'll put links to all this stuff in the bottom. So yeah, please, you know, if you want to check me out, follow me on Instagram. If you like my artwork, this is my DeviantArt page where I, you know, this is mainly more full color sort of art pieces that I do. I put some comics up here too, you know, and then also things like, this is like fan art. This is from Steven Universe. So, what can I say? I draw monsters, so I draw Steven Universe fan art as monsters, right? I really do like Steven Universe. It was a great show. Anyway, so yeah, but if you want to see more of my artwork, please check me out on DeviantArt. I do have a Patreon, which I had to relaunch because nobody joined, but if you like what I do and you want to support me financially, please consider joining my Patreon. For a measly $1 a month, I will give you early access to videos and give you a shout out. And for $10, I will make a video on the subject of your choice. So if you want me to make a video about radioactive rabbit wrestling, I will make that video. I don't even know what that is. Or I'll draw something for you, you know, a black and white art piece. So something like what we were drawing tonight, I'll draw one of those for you for $10. And if you want to give me $20, I will give you free stuff from my Etsy store and anything in the previous tiers. So speaking of Etsy, let me just open that up. This is my Etsy shop. I sell prints, you know, so this one's really popular. I really hope that 12 people have that in their cart. That would be awesome. But here's an example of one of the prints I do. This is a Lovecraft character, you know, In fact, I can actually show you, because I have one of those right here on me. Let me just turn off this monitor, and I'll get one of these guys out. So here's an example of the prints that I make. These are 11 by 17 coffee stained prints, and then I put the sealer on it that makes it kind of feel like leather, so it's got a leathery texture. And you know, these are pretty popular. I sell these for like 15 bucks each, and each one comes out a little different because of the staining and tearing around the sides and stuff. So if you like what I do and you want to support me and you don't want to join Patreon, please maybe consider buying something from my Etsy store. I got a bunch of different ones, you know, on there, and I'll put links to all this stuff in the bottom. And I have a webcomic. This is hawanja.com, fun for the whole stupid family. So this one here is about ninjas. It's actually titled Hawanja, which is a character I created back when I was a kid. You know, he's a ninja, he fights people. And then also on this, I also have my Dirty Kitchen comics on the side here, so you can kind of see. Let's just choose a random comic. You know, here you go. This is another, I'll do another random one. So this is just more of like webcomic stuff, right? And I try to update this at least once a week or so. One of these two, either this one or the Hawanja one, will get updated at least once a week. So yeah, you know, if you want to see some of my comics, please check me out there. And then I have one other YouTube channel, which is UCD Videos on YouTube. And this one is like non-political, you know, content. So I do game reviews. I do a lot of toy reviews, toy unboxings. I do live streams, and then like movie reviews, stuff like that. So this is like, you know, if you want to see me talking about toys and games and video games and movies and TV shows and shit like that, this is what I do on UCD Videos. So please consider checking me out there. And I think that's everything as far as what we got for tonight. Thank you so much, Cody. As always, you're awesome. You should seriously start your own YouTube channel, Cody. Man, you got a lot of cool things to say. Thank you, Chris Gillian. Thank you, Eggman, even though I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you, Ink Spectra and Dominic and everybody else who joined and checked me out tonight. Thank you so much. And we will probably do another one of these either this weekend or next Wednesday. So that's all I got, folks. Adios.